You're listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast, where we explore the connection between a fit body and positive mental health. And our big mission? It's to help 10,000 runners to develop fitter minds in the next 2 years. I'm your host, Michelle Frost. Let's get moving. Welcome to this episode of the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. Today, we talk with Megs Calhane. One of Meg's favourite sayings is, motivation builds on motivation, which is awesome. Enjoy. Today on Fit Mind, Fit Body, I am very excited to have a friend of mine, Megs Calhane. Sorry, Megs, you just...
Calhane. That's right.
Calhane. I've known you for years and I can't say your surname.
Well, you probably still remember me as Richardson.
Exactly. Well, that's easier to say. Megs Richardson.
That's fine. Yeah.
But that's not her married name.
No worries with me.
Welcome, Megs. I'm so excited to have you here because you're such a, in my mind, such a stalwart of just getting out there and having a go and getting physical and you know, making the most of your body with movement, whether it's running or other types of movement. So I'm just really excited because I know you have lots of wisdom to share. Where we're going to start though is, where did you grow up? Tell me a bit about that, because that's stuff I don't really know that much about your...
Yeah, okay. I grew up in Hobart and I moved to Launceston to start uni to do a degree in Bachelor of Education majoring in PE and health. And so, yeah, moved up here when I was, 19 and did have plans to move back to Hobart when the opportunity arose. But I got my first job here, and while I was at uni, I was studying to be a fitness instructor as well, and I got my qualifications and started instructing, and it all just sort of happened from there. I started fit and kicky and met my husband here, and so I've stayed here and I love Launceston. Yeah.
It's kind of like, wow. Because if you think about somebody, like a personal trainer type person who gets people fit in Launceston, you're the first person that comes to mind for many of us, especially people of my age, anyway, I think.
Well, look, I said when I first started out, probably Mark Connolly was probably one of the only other ones doing mobile style of fit business. Yeah. And so really... I was probably the first sort of female in Launceston doing that style of business. So, there's always been lots of gyms around and lots of options in Launceston, but I think obviously now there's just it's expanded in so many ways about the types of fitness people can access and all I think utilising beautiful spaces and people creating all these safe spaces and using the natural environment to really enhance the experience of being active in Launceston.
It's perfect. So going back a bit, when you were at school, what were you like sporty wise? Were you into all of the sport or?
Yeah, I did lots of different sports growing up, netball and tennis and squash and I always loved the athletics and the swim carnivals and the cross country, and I did always really like to run and always kind of was one of those kids that enjoyed the cross country season. And so I've probably always been lucky in a sense that it's been something I've enjoyed and that I got value from, intrinsically about how it made me feel. But a turning point was probably having one of my teachers at school. Her name was Di Barnes, and she came to my school as a science teacher, and she was a very capable and decorated sort of runner herself, and she took on the cross country team and became my running coach while I was at school, and really set some really, not disciplined, but some sort of helped me establish, where that might fit in my life and how that might take place. But she was an absolutely fantastic mentor for me and a very influential person in my life at that stage, someone I really, really valued then and even more so now as you go through life and you realise it's sliding door moments in life that you have.
Those pivotal moments.
No, always active, always enjoyed it, always loved the sort of team element as well as the individual element of sports. and lucky that I had very, very supportive parents who love to see us active and were very happy to ferry us around and be supportive and encouraging of that. And a school that had a lot of school spirit and again endorsed, all of that side of things.
So you have siblings then?
Yes, I have an older sister. She was the same, active and liked the sport, and then a younger sister who's 10 years younger who's really not been that involved in the fitness side of things. It was never a big team sport person, but she's was a very, very good dancer, and she has her own dance schools in Hobart. So her activity is very different to ours, but nonetheless, she is been very, very successful in what she's done and very passionate and loves it. So we kind of all share these passions, but in different ways.
Yeah, so still like that movement, passion for movement, moving.
Yeah, and that teaching element, I guess. Like I said, she's a dance teacher, and so I think it's been something we've all enjoyed, in terms of the friends you make and a whole range of elements that we all.
Why do you think your family is like that? Why do you think your family is particularly, there's three of you and you all have some kind of movement stuff that you've taken forward into your adult lives as well. Do you think is there any, were your parents in somehow?
Well, my mum wasn't particularly active. She enjoyed sort of going for walks, but she wasn't. My dad was from a very sporting family. In fact, my great-grandfather was actually selected in the Australian cricket team.
Oh, wow.
But at that stage of life, that was back in the days where you paid your own way to get to England to play, on a boat, and his family simply couldn't afford it. And he had the opportunity to do that. And so supporting family, but I think just sometimes, again, it's at the school you're at or the coaches or the people you come across. And so my school was, again, a sporting school. I'm not I think, actually, to be honest, it was that dissimilar to a lot of my friends. And I think you just, I recognise in my friends the ones who are really arty and the ones who are really into drama and the ones who are really into outdoor ed versus the ones who are into sort of traditional sports. So I think, again, there's environmental and genetic is the right word. All of those. Nature versus nurture stuff that comes into play.
Just all kind of worked. It's interesting just because the couple of the people that I've talked to who were quite good at running and sports when they were kids, often one of their parents was actually also quite, into it. And so that example, so we talk sometimes about, the example that's provided and whether that, how much of an influence that had on their, getting out the door and doing things apart from just school sport, that they actually did it for their own.
I mean, role modeling is obviously really important. And I mean, I probably would never have picked squash as a sport, except, my dad played it, my older sister played it. And so it was a natural progression to do that. I think, if we look at in our family, our kids are heavily into surf lifesaving, and that's a result of us spending lots of time at Bridport, joining the club, and then all four of us enjoying what that represents, being part of that club. And so our kids have picked that sport up. And so again, I think there is a natural progression when people are in a family about what they might pick up and go with.
Even as an extension of that, being a mother as well, it was one of the things that it wasn't why I run or why I started running. It was something I would think about. I'm thinking, well, if my kids can see me get out of the car and run the rest of the way to somewhere we were going, then that's an example to them that even as an adult, sport or, deliberate movement can be part of your life. It's not just for kids at school.
I think I think your motivations over the years for why you might do any type of exercise vary. And certainly for me, I've found that my motivations are very different to how they were even 10 years ago. But, I definitely still want to be a role model. And I actually just want to be able to keep up with my kids. I want to, last Sunday, Grace and I wanted to go and participate in the Women's 5 and to do that together and, be part of, that fundraising and awareness and part of that event. So definitely role modeling is important. And you just want to be around, don't you? I always think, well, I don't want to be on the sidelines. I want to be part of things. I want to be joining in. I want to be privy to having a body that's I want to have privy to a body that keeps up with as much as I can as time goes on.
Yeah, totally. Okay. When you're at uni, I know it's probably a tricky question, well, not tricky question. I hadn't thought about it like this, but because you were already doing you're doing a physical education type of thing at uni. So I guess it was encouraged that you would be more sporty, because often I ask a question about, especially people who've been to uni, how they fitted in the exercise, if they did, on top of the study loads. But for you, I guess, was it different there? Because that was part of your study load, I guess, in a way. They'd have you out
sort of
there
active at uni with some
stuff.
prac units, but to be honest, which is mortifying in my own mind to imagine. But I actually had a year or two when I first moved to Launceston where I did very little. You know, I actually stopped running and lost fitness, and I mean, I guess when I look back, I really didn't want to move away, and I actually struggled. You know, I spent the first sort of 1 or 2 semesters actually begging mum and dad to let me quit and go home. No. And I was really wasn't enjoying it, but I'm so glad that they said, no, you stick that out for a year at least and see how that pans out. And of course, you know, as most things in life, it was one of the best things I've ever done, is gain the independence, get my degree, get my fitness qualifications. But so I actually had a year or two where I did very little. I think I joined a netball team and played squash again, picked squash up, but I didn't start running again till about probably third year uni. And again, it was just that thing of it going, oh, that's what's been missing. I needed to do this, you know, to keep that sense of self, keep fit, sleep better, eat better, feel better about myself, and study better. Study better, all of it. So I look back and think, wow, I'm not sure how I managed to actually just not feel. I remember feeling kind of disgusting, actually going, well, I just feel really unfit and really I'm not enjoying how this is making me feel. So
that's interesting, because, you know, a lot of people would say that at uni, because it's so stressful, especially depending on the degree that they're doing, of course, but I think all of it is pretty stressful with your deadlines and stuff like that, but that realization that when I'm out doing, whether it's running or some other kind of physical exercise, it makes everything else seem easier, if that.
Yes. Well, I think if you talk to anyone who loves their exercise or their music or their drum or whatever it is that brings is cathartic for them, that the resounding thing that always keeps them going or ensures that it's part of their routine is the way it makes them feel. And I guess in my job, in the fitness industry, I always say to people, the thing that is going to keep you going and the thing that will provide the motivation, I say motivation builds on motivation, because it's the way something makes you feel that will keep you coming back. And it is the way that something makes you feel that will always be the biggest motivator for doing it. Whether it's a sense of accomplishment or, the fact that you drink more water or you eat better, or the fact that, it's the friends you've made or but it's predominantly a feeling, and you can't argue with those endorphins running around your body. They're free flowing, and if they're if you're getting those as a result of exercise, that's always going to be something that is going to be a powerful role in keeping you wanting to move.
So you strike me as someone who has the opportunity to do lots of different kinds of exercise. I mean, you've already talked about the fact that you guys are in the surf life-saving down at Bridport, for example.
Let me clarify there. I do the ocean swims and not much else. I'm not too flash on the beach. I'm pretty sure if I tried any of the beach sprints or flags, I'd pull a hammy. But our family, even Pete likes to compete and do the range of events. But sorry, carry on. Cool. Just wanted to clarify. I didn't want to put it out there that I was,
The question is, why do you choose running? When you choose running as your form of exercise, and I know you've had ups and downs with it, with injuries and all sorts of stuff over the years, do you always come back to running, or why do you choose running as your modus exercise?
Multitude of reasons. Sometimes it's the practical elements. It's easy to do from wherever you go. It's a pair of sand shoes and that philosophy of I don't need much to do it. So practically it's time effective. We have a crappy winter time here where it's easy to get out and run than it is to do anything else, in a sense. You can't ride in the wind, and you can, it's not very pleasant. So those practical elements. But again, I think it's it was always for me something that made me feel good about myself. And it's always been something that's been the biggest stress release. I always feel much freer after a run. I feel like I've cleared my head. I've allowed myself an opportunity to de-stress. And then I guess when I was running a lot and being able to feel like I could be not competitive, but I could train for events and do my best at events. Back then it was there was more a competitive element to it about what can I do, what is my body capable of, let's set some goals and let's achieve some goals here, let's see what you can do a marathon in, let's see how far you can run and how fast. But clearly, as said, your motivations change over the years, and as time's gone on, more and more of it has become about the stress release and the time out and the friends I've made, the beautiful friendships and the opportunity again to run in beautiful places and to make running, has become more about experiences now. So how fantastic you can book an event and you go away with, a group of friends for a weekend and enjoy a whole weekend of experiences as opposed to just the run. But I think essentially it's because it makes me feel grounded. It makes me feel like I'm doing something good for my health. It makes me feel like I'm still that I'm still challenging myself.
Still vital,
and I really,
perhaps.
Yeah, it is vital. It's good. It's been a very important part of my mental health over the years, and it makes me feel like if I can keep a base level of fitness through running, but then mentally, have the opportunity, as said, to keep myself, keep the endorphins flowing, keep the stress levels down, then I'll always do it. But yeah, it's, you kind of know in your head and you can articulate why you do it. But when you think about it that way, I think it also just becomes something you become very attached to, isn't it? It's like your children, you don't want to give up something that brings you joy, and you'll always try and maintain that and try and move with the times and have a level of acceptance that the relationship with it will change. For me, the relationship with running has changed a huge amount over the last how many years, and I still, in a sense, experience a bit of grief with the fact that I can't actually do the type of running that I want to do based on some injuries and issues. But I'm determined that you concentrate on what you can do rather than what you can't do, and enjoy the experiences that come with it.
One of the things we talk about a bit in the podcast is identity, and it's around everything that you just said then, and especially for people who really identify heavily as runners and then they have some kind of injury that stops them from running for a little while or maybe a bit longer, and how to deal with that. And maybe it is, as you said, I think very healthily there, the ways you can think about it and, reframe it, and perhaps you're not just a runner, you're somebody who likes to exercise and stay healthy, and there's other sort of frames where running is encompassed in that identity, but it isn't the entire identity.
No, I wouldn't call myself a runner anymore. I kind of go, I'm a plotter, and I like to get out there, and I still want to be want to run and keep that running fitness up and enjoy the benefits of it. But now I'm very much in my head realize that 10, 15, 20 years ago, I would have gone out for a run with the sole purpose of, I want to run that far or this time, or whereas now, sometimes I'm not even looking at the watch, sometimes I'm not even, I'm not worried about that at all. Generally speaking, it's more about the other things that come with it, So yeah, it is reframing it in your head. And so I do have moments still where I go, I really miss being able to run like that, or being able to do that, or not having to make it my body choosing for me in a sense what I can and can't do. But I still feel eternally grateful that I can put on a pair of sand shoes and walk out the door and go for a run. And I always think there's someone always worse off. I always think, gosh, people sort of say, oh, I don't want to get up in the morning and run early or whatever. And I think, well, there's people lying in a hospital bed or with a medical condition that is not their, not their fault, that they've got that choice is removed from them. And so I always think, well, if you got a choice, it's like COVID. I don't know about you, but I've had, times over the last year, I've just thought, I feel so lucky that I'm not in lockdown. I get to go.
How lucky are we?
Yeah, I get to go out and go for a run, or, I know they're allowed an hour of exercise, but, it might be within 5 kilometres of the house. So I think if you can reframe things in your head, and it's that the glass half full approach, I guess, you know, you have to take in life, because I said, you know, you're blessed here.
Totally. I can remember I saw you the weekend before COVID became a thing for us. And we were all talking about, oh, this will go away. And within a week we were like, oh my God, now I'm like, oh no, what happened?
Yeah, having to, and I think COVID actually, for a lot of people, has been a really, in Tasmania, not necessarily in other parts of the world or other parts of Australia, but, you know, COVID has actually, you know, really allowed people to focus on how lucky we are here and to really bring it back to those things. So when COVID was on, and I remember when you could only go running with one other person.
Yeah.
And so instead of going with a group of people that you're used to meeting, we would have this rotational system where, all right, I'll meet with so-and-so that week, and it's my turn to go with so-and-so the week after. And it really heightened friendships, you know, in a sense of, you know, getting back to going, you know, to really that communication with someone in an hour, you know, an hour run, because
that's all you got.
You know, that was all you had. And, you know, so I think COVID's actually, you know, was a very powerful tool for a lot of people to recognise, you know, how lucky we've been in St. Launceston in particular.
It's probably a little bit like when you do have an injury too, in that it's you really miss your running when you can't run. You know, it's like you really want to, so when someone says you can only run for an hour or whatever their parameters
you can only go this. Yeah, exactly.
But now I want to run a marathon every day. Why?
Oh no, I wouldn't go that far. Let's not get too excited. But no, I think, you know, it's really important to. I've said it a lot within the fitness side of my work. You know that. You know, if you've got a body that is capable and willing and able, then take advantage of it, because as I said, we're privileged to have that. There's so many people where, you know, they get some awful disease, or they're unwell, or they've got, you know, something that prevents them from having that choice. And so I like to always remind myself that I'm lucky, that I'm healthy and have the option.
Yeah. Now I know I can remember going running with Megs Richardson before.
I'm
completely lost on that now. Before I was going to say before children. Like I can remember running with you, and I was talking about, I think I might have only had a couple of kids at that stage instead of the 5 I've had now. Maybe I'd had. Anyway, I can remember running with you, and we were like talking, and you were, you know, asking questions about kids. And then I remember when you got pregnant with Grace and stuff, and it was quite interesting. Anyway, how did you go? Like that changes when you're a runner, and quite a good runner or regular runner, whatever, it doesn't really matter what terms you put around it. And then your life changes because this little person comes along. It's one thing to be a runner and even, you know, with a partner and all of that, but there's this little person that stops you doing, well, you just have to change things and mix it up a bit. And there are a lot of people who will listen to this podcast who are having, I know quite a few of them already, who are having babies at the moment. And it's like how they deal with that and come back and stay as a runner and just, how did you?
I literally that 6-week check came around, and I, check up and clearance, and I was out the door because I just couldn't wait to get back and have some time out. And I think once I tried taking the pram, but for me, going for a run was about time out for me. So really it was not something I did. And I learned to go at all sorts of the time of day to get a run in and to be really flexible about that and adaptable. And, so it varied a lot about when I could go. And I'm lucky I have a very supportive husband who I think rather selfishly would think we're all better off if she's been for a run. So let's make sure we support this notion.
It's not the first time that's been said on this podcast.
So it was probably his best interest to be a supportive husband. But, I did all sorts of things. I might be dropping Grace up to him at lunchtime to go for a run from his workplace, or, going early in the morning in between a breastfeed, or going at 6 o'clock at night, if I was having some maternity leave, not working, or I just got used to, and I would resort to doing things that, like, if Pete went away, for example, for work for a couple of days, I would actually pay a babysitter to come you know, to be able to either work, like it might have been sometimes I pair it with work. I might go, right, I'll just go and take one session and then I'll put another bit of time on the other end of that for me to go for a run. So I use strategies like that. And I think because we saw it as a priority in our family, well, both for Pete and I, to be able to do our exercise because it's something we enjoy and obviously feel like we need, then we would just, I guess, be planned and organised about how we might achieve that. So after having Grace, I mean, I started training within, I think it was less than 6 months. I was, you know, I wanted to do a marathon. I wanted to see what I could do, and I wanted to have a chance to do something for me because as much as I love becoming a mum, I really felt like I needed something that was mine. And so that was really good because it gave me an impetus to make sure I was, you know, getting out and training and doing some things. But I'm not sure if that helps other people. Not everyone is blessed to have the flexibility in their working day with partner and things like that to make that work. That's where I think you have to think outside the square a little bit and really, you know, and then as children get older, it gets a little easier because it might be that they go into daycare and you again leave, you know, I used to put a time aside. So if I was working and our kids were in care, I would allocate still an hour, for example, to make sure I could fit in a run in that time frame.
That planning is very important, I think, because I think
it's planning.
if you don't think ahead when's that run going to happen this week, or when those runs going to happen this week.
And I think you're lucky if you can work through. I mean, I've never really needed a huge amount of sleep. So as exhausted as I was, even if I'd been up through the night breastfeeding, I could usually still work through fatigue, or knowing that even though it would feel almost really difficult to go if I was really tired, that it would still make me feel better for going. So I'd rather the fatigue from a run in a sense than the fatigue from I've had no sleep, but I've got no energy because I haven't done anything. So you kind of got to fight that a little bit, I think. But it's a bit like now I really try. If I've got a friend, and most of my friends obviously have had their children are past that phase, but you know, sometimes if I know someone's just had a baby, you know, I'll try really hard to extend the invitation. So if you ever need to go for a run or go do some jobs, whatever it is, call me. You know, I've got an hour. I'll come round. You know, because I remember that was something I really valued when a couple of people would do that for me. You know, they'd say, "Do you need a run?" I go, "Yep." Yes. All right, we'll drop Grace around or drop Harry or really? You know. You got to be.
A few of the mums have said, you know, just like you, it was that me time. Like they just needed those moments to go for a run because it really was their me time.
I think it's super important. I think people, I'm going to be you have to be really careful about how you phrase it. I think sometimes people, they're so devoted to their children and they love their children and they put their children first, as we should. But it's very easy in a sense if you get out of habit of exercising to use your children almost as an excuse. Oh no, I can't, as opposed to I need to be not selfish, but I need to do this for me. So I'm going to be a better mom, a better partner, a better person, better version of myself. So, you know, I actually think more mums need to put that perspective on it, as opposed to, oh, I'm being a bad mum by going, or your children won't suffer. You know, they'll benefit from you being an active person with more energy who's in a better mood, and you know, and will probably spend more quality time with your children as a result of doing something for yourself and feeling like you've had some time out, as opposed to spending loads all your time with children. It's not always quality, you know. You know, so I'd love for people to turn the narrative around on that a little bit and not make the children the center of their universe, you know.
The analogy I've heard for that is, which works really well for that, is it's just like on the plane when they talk about that you give yourself the oxygen first and then your children and others that need help.
And then you adapt, you know. You know, your children at different phases cope with different things. And, you know, I remember after I had Grace and I was going back to work, and we were just like, we're just going to have to see how this goes. And the same when we had Harry, how is this going to work, you know, in terms of the hours are not your usual hours. And so, you know, you adapt it and change it and find another way around it if one thing doesn't work at one phase of life, you know, in one phase of life.
So how long have you had your business for?
I've had Fit and Kicking 22 years now.
Wow.
So a long time. And, you know, in that time, lots of changes in the industry, but also, yeah, I've seen lots of reasons or lots of people motivated by different things to exercise as well.
That's not all you do though now.
No, I've been a marriage celebrant for around 8 or 9 years and a funeral celebrant for about 5 or 6.
Wow.
And so my days are varied. Yeah, no, like in any one day I can start my day with fitness and then have a funeral perhaps, or a funeral meeting, or a wedding meeting, or a wedding. Or Saturday is typically fitness in the morning and weddings in the afternoon kind of scenario. So yeah, I put different hats on through the day. And but again, you know, you asked about that running question. I would never, in a sense, well, not never going to say, I'm very wary of when I'm going and doing things like a funeral, that I've exercised in the morning to clear my head and make sure that I feel like I'm focused. And again, I've had that time out for myself, and just that, not just that level of feeling like you've just gone, okay, hot shower now and coffee, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, I love that. What made you choose what made you want to go and do the celebrancy stuff?
I've just always, I guess I've always loved celebrations, and I love the meaning behind ceremonies, whether it's a funeral or a baby naming ceremony or a wedding. And then and I did share an office when I was teaching with Dee Potter, who is a celebrant, obviously.
I think she was.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what tweaked it, but I was just very, very, I just always loved it. I loved, obviously you see people on their happiest days, and then you see people on really difficult days. And I've just always felt like it was really, really important to celebrate all aspects of life, on beginning, end and middle. And I suppose because I'm not shy and I don't mind being around people, and I love writing. So I really, you know, if you'd asked me what I might have done if I hadn't been a teacher or in the fitness industry, I probably would have said something like journalism. I love writing. So that process for me is really, really enjoyable. So I love writing ceremonies. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So I've married quite a few couples now that I know through fitness, and they do, things really do cross over. And there's always a running joke, you're going to make them run up to the top of the mountain to marry. It's like, no, I don't know. I want to be in a dress too, you know. So
I think our fitness joke around that is Simon and I walked to the top of Barn Bluff, and he asked me to marry him at the top of Barn Bluff, but I beat him to the top, and he said, you know, if you hadn't beaten me to the top, I wasn't going to ask you because you wouldn't be strong enough to put up with me.
He said he had it all right.
Anyway, he had it all sorted out.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
I think it's like anything, you just find things in life, don't you, in your partner, things like that. I love scenarios like that with people, you know, you've got a common interest of being active and your jobs and those things, and you know, you find those commonalities with people, and they become your people, don't they? You know, that's people you enjoy running with, or people you it's cool. It's a joy. It's joy to live in a place where the connections are so strong and so easy to make.
Yeah, that's true. So all this running, we haven't really talked about the kind of running you like. Where do you like to run? What sort of running do you like to do? Do you like road, trails, both?
I don't love trail running. I find I'm not very confident on the trails, and I feel like I'm going to trip and do an injury. And so I don't love the trails, but I do love what they stand for. Like, I do think being out on the trails is really, again, cathartic and great to be able to take advantage of them, especially when they're so close to the CBD in Launceston. And for me, trail running kind of really is more come about. The trail runs I have done, which is limited, but is because of the friends that I run with, and I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out in their company. I don't want to miss out on
fear of missing out again, Megs.
Yeah, FOMO's big in our group. And the enjoyment of I do really enjoy trying to like nature. And I know that sounds silly, but I'm not. They joke in our group about me trying to glorify with nature. It's like, I'm going to go glorify with nature to, you know, to try and appreciate it, because I'm, and that's really important, and fresh air and all of those things. So I'm not a big trail runner, and I'm not good at it. I'm very slow and cumbersome, and
I find that interesting, because I would have thought that you'd be, because isn't your husband is like all over the nature?
Yeah, he loves the nature stuff. He married me, thought that we'd be spending our weekends bushwalking. No, I
know, that's like I'm pretty sure your husband's
not me at
a
all.
nutso
I like
with
to
that kind of
exercise
stuff.
and come home to I like to exercise and come home to a shower and a coffee. But so no, I'm not great trail running. I said my knees, because I do have a lot of grief with my knees. I find trail running difficult from the downhills or rocky terrain, and those things is
uneven surfaces and things.
Yeah, it's sore, it hurts a bit, and it puts me on edge a bit, that I'll do my knee. But so probably for that reason I never really relaxed doing it. But road running, is obviously easy and accessible, and I guess what I've always known. But if you can get a bit of a mix of that, and I used to love running hills. But now, I've gotten a lot slower and find hills a lot harder to do. So they're not as enjoyable as they used to.
Because you used to get it over with quicker, do you think that's why?
No, I used to kind of feel quite strong on hills, and I used to like the challenge of them. And so I still love going up Mount Barrow. I still love all of those things, but I just have had to adjust my expectations in my head of how long it will take, or how much harder it will be, so but look, I just enjoy running for the outcome of how it will make me feel, and it's time effective, and it's usually with in the company of great people and in nice places.
When's the Mount Barrow run?
This year it's October the 24th, so same day as Burnie 10 actually, which is a bit of a shame, but
you can't help it these days. We clash all the time.
I know, because we didn't want to clash with Bridport Fun Run either, and we always like to try and keep Mount Barrow in the month of October. And I'm just trying to avoid. We moved the date. It was originally another date, November 7th. I moved it to, because I didn't want it to have 3 weeks in a row of people doing perhaps Barrow, Point to Pinnacle and triple tops.
I was going to say,
so we've moved ours a bit earlier to put a bit of a break. And Barrow's a great training run for Point to Pinnacle.
I was just thinking that the 7th actually is the Ringarooma. It must be the 6th.
Oh, right. There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
And it's also effervescence at Joseph Cromer, running yoga in the vines with mimosas. So I'm like, right,
what to do?
What to do? Yoga in the vines. So I thought, well, that's not a bad alternative, is it?
It is. It's kind of crashing. I think it's this time of year, isn't it? Running into Christmas.
Yeah.
Because we're living in this glorified no COVID zone at the moment. Yeah. There's all the things that would normally happen are still sort of scheduled to happen.
Well, I think also too, because everyone crams stuff into our warmer months, and the weather is more predictable and those things. So it happens every year.
Yeah, crazy. But anyway, I guess if you're a person who loves to get out there and do stuff, you've got a copious amounts of choices, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. It's interesting because I haven't been able to run as much over the last how many years with injuries and things. I've taken up more road riding, but I've found the same thing to be true of running and riding. People's reason for doing things are really no different. It doesn't matter whether it's running, riding, swimming. It's the same principles of what people get out of it as to why they keep going with it, or why they enjoy it.
The coffee at the end, no?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. And it's a time out. I think more and more people are recognizing that it's the mental side of exercise that's the most, really important to them. Yeah, definitely. And the friendships and the experiences. You hear that, people are after experiences in life now. They're realizing that health is the new wealth. They're realizing that, it doesn't matter how much you do. Yeah.
I like that. Health is the new wealth. I can and
people are recognizing the experiences and are the thing that give you a great deal of satisfaction, and we get to take advantage of that in Tasmania, with both because of the nature of where we live and the environment and access to things, and because of obviously we haven't been in COVID, struck by COVID so much, so or affected so much.
When you're running, do you listen to stuff? Like, this is kind of related to the mental health stuff. Are you a headphone person, or are you what are you?
Oh, it's so funny. Years ago, I used to do predominantly all my running on my own, because of work, work. When anyone else was running, I was always working. So back then I used to listen to music all the time. And now I'm ashamed to say I rarely go for a run on my own. It's rare that I'll run on my own. I just I'm more likely to jump on the bike now and ride on my own than I would run. And maybe because some of the joy has gone from running, in the sense that it doesn't flow as well and it's harder and it hurts a bit more and I don't recover as well. So, but if I did go for a run on my own, I would definitely take music. Yeah.
So you music listen
or a podcast. Yeah, mostly. Yeah, actually, I'm not really a podcast girl. I think the only podcast I've ever listened to is the one by Fiona Reynolds, our local Fiona, who did one on I think it was called Accidental Heroes. And so I think that's the only podcast I've ever listened to. Well, of course, I'll be adding yours to my list.
You'll have to listen to your own podcast.
I might listen to somebody else's own.
That's what people say. Oh, no, it was really cringy. I didn't want to listen to my own.
No one likes to hear themselves.
So when you're actually, I don't suppose it matters whether you're necessarily running or riding or any of these other exercise things you're doing. What kind of things are you thinking about? So obviously, if you're running next to someone, you're often chatting with them, so that you're kind of thinking about whatever that conversation is. But on those times when you're, off by yourself, like, you don't have to give us details because not everybody.
I guess, like most people, I'd sort through issues in my head, like what am I going to do about that, or how am I going to solve that, or how will I answer that email, or think about kids a lot, and what do I need to do there, and what things have they got coming up, and am I being a good parent, and all those deep questions of how did I handle that. I think it's a mix of personal things and of work related things, and I think sometimes you don't think you're thinking about anything, but you have in fact worked through some issues in your head. But I think probably sometimes I plan sessions, or sometimes I'm trying to appreciate what's going on around me. I think probably more the things going through my mind and things I want to sort in my head, or if something's really worrying me, trying to really identify what part of it is worrying me, and okay, that might be worrying, but what are you going to do about it? How are you going to solve that problem? What's the action you're going to take? I think that's often what I think about, because
the worrying isn't going to solve it.
No, I think, as I said, you work through it and you get rid of the angst by the exercise, and then you find that you've reached a conclusion of what you need to do and what your options are.
I've always found that, especially the longer the run, the more brilliant the idea seems. And then I stop running and I'm in the shower and I'm thinking about it later. I'm like, actually, that's not such a great idea.
Yeah, you've sorted out your options anyway.
Yeah, that's right. I think something about how much oxygen your brain doesn't have with the longer runs perhaps is why they're not such great ideas by the end, but shorter runs tend to be better.
Yeah, they do. And I've had runs over the years with friends who decide on long runs that they're going to do, like, Sally McLean's a classic. She loves to do riddles or things, and I'm just like, I can't think that. My brain's not capable of it. And so people sometimes solve problems, or otherwise they're just trying to literally give you a completely different distraction of what you're thinking about. But look, I think you try and sort some issues in your head, but I do try and actually enjoy the exercise sometimes as a break from those things too. So sometimes I'm just going, I want to go out and enjoy the sun, enjoy how my body feels, or enjoy being able to move and not think about the things that like work, that are on my mind.
Yeah, I love that. If you were to think back, well, I'd like you to think back, your favorite run, doesn't have to be a race, just your favorite. Can you think of a time when that was like, this is just, everything was lovely?
Oh, yeah.
Everything, in the flow, that's a good description for it.
There's so many runs over years. Look, sometimes it's just been on a sunny, warm day and the sun is out and you're in a nice place running, and
you with friends, maybe.
Like nothing. There's no specific. I've had lots of runs over the years, so I've come back and just on that was really lovely and how nice. Maybe sometimes like I've done some runs overseas where we've seen run around a corner and seen some really historic, oh wow, so things like that can be a bit eye-opening, but usually there have been times where come back from running with a friend or through the basin. I mean, no one ever gets sick of running up the gorge, do they? And
I did that today.
or exactly. So usually they're just the mundane, you think they're going to be just another old run that turns out to be really nice, and nothing really comes to mind. I did love the challenge of some of the races that I used to like doing, like Gold Coast one up there, and they all hurt, but ones where you felt like you're really challenging yourself and you're going, right, let's see what I can do today, or like ones I might have done with the kids, in a fun run.
Yeah.
Or the other one I really used to enjoy really hard, but was I used to really like Scott started Bridport or the Lilydale Lope, nasty things. Or every year I still do Barrow, and I still think, oh wow, how lucky to have this mountain here. Yeah. Or Point to Pinnacle. Actually, Point to Pinnacle, that's wrong. I've done Point to Pinnacle about 5 times. Every single time I was in the hurt box and thinking, this sucks. I hate this. Why are you doing this? But then you finish, and the satisfaction was so high because it was such a hard run that was hard. That's hard to beat. It's
interesting, isn't it? The thing that goes on in our brain, that even if the harder it is, sometimes you cross the line and it's like, oh, now I feel just amazing because it was, but it's equal to how amazing you feel is equal to how hard it was. It's like, what? It's kind of crazy that I don't understand that. Exactly.
No, I think that's human nature. You want to be challenged, and you, I mean, that's half the reason why people will do those. They want to see what they can do. They want to know, what am I capable of?
Yeah, that's true. So how do you think that running has improved your life? So if you hadn't had running in your life, what would you be missing? What's the main thing you think running's given your life?
I think it's given me a sense of grit and discipline. Like you often don't always feel like going for that run, or I think running can really put you in the hurt box, and it's not always comfortable, and you can be out of breath or something's hurting, but I think it's given me a grit and determination to go, well, even when things are hard or they're hurting a little bit, again, it's how you feel from doing it. That made me feel a real sense of achievement for getting it. The puppy dog's up on the desk.
You've got a puppy.
There's our sausage dog.
It's a puppy on the podcast.
Yeah, that's a large sausage. I think it's a sense of achievement of getting out on a cold day or a wet day or early or whatever the barriers are that would have made it easy to go, no, I'm not going. So definitely that. Again, just general fitness. I think it's just kept me fit enough to be able to keep up to do things and to enjoy life. And I really feel like it's kept my energy levels up over the years. It's made me feel like my energy levels allow me to enjoy doing things with the kids and having enough energy to get through a working day, as well as be able to enjoy beyond that. And definitely, we've come back to it time and time again, talking, it's the friendships. It's a wonderful, wonderful byproduct of being active, is the people you meet. And sometimes you meet people that you'd never come across in any other circumstance. So that's definitely been a big part for me of that. And the mental health.
How do you get out the door? Like, on those days when it's just like that, because we almost have them, I feel like people like you whose profession is actually to do with being physically fit, there's another layer of pressure or whatever. So if I don't get out the door one day because I choose not to for some reason, I just feeling flat, or it's usually when you should go, by the way, when you're feeling flat, or the weather's pretty crappy or something. Nobody else will really care,
No, they don't. Again, I think it comes back to that level of that grit of, no, just get out and do it, because you'll feel better. But I also think that if you don't go, I always say, if you didn't go on all the days you didn't feel like going, you'd hardly ever go, because you rarely feel like going. It's just that, after the first 10 minutes, you'll be fine. Yeah. So I feel I'm probably really disciplined with it, because, again, I know I'll feel worse for it later. Mm-hmm. And the guilt of not going, or the feeling of disappointment in myself is worse than the actual getting out there for, and doing it. Mm. And I also think, it would create some very bad habits that would be easy to fall into, that, oh, well, now it's another day and another day.
Tricks? Are there any tricks that you have that you use for yourself, or you're just so disciplined that you don't need to?
Oh, no, my thing is how it will make me feel. I hate feeling, I just don't like, disappointed or fidgety. I get fidgety and I get a bit,
toey.
I just get toey, and I just don't feel. And I'll end up just taking 5 times as long to do things, that need doing, because I'm just kind of like, sometimes I had a Sunday ages ago, and I couldn't exercise in the morning because of some family commitments or something we had on, and I was kind of in my head going, no, it's all right just to have a day off. You can just, don't worry today, just don't worry. And then I had another family commitment, and then I got to about 3 o'clock and everything, and those commitments had finished up, and I was kind of like, no, you can have a day off, whatever. But by 3:30, I was like, I'm just going to go for a quick run, because, again, I was just antsy. I was just like, I'm not getting anything done. I might as well, in the amount of time I'm procrastinating in my head and spending time thinking about it, even if I went for 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's better than...
It's actually more time effective than the 20 or 30 minutes I'm going to spend pondering it, wondering, will I feel better? Should I go? And I think that's like the mornings. Don't think about it. Just get up and go before your body's had a chance to really think about it.
I said to someone the other day, because, mornings tends to be one of my things. To just do it in the morning and then it's done.
Yeah.
But if I can't, because I've got meetings or something, I will actually have my running clothes on underneath whatever, people can see on the Zoom. It's often Zoom for me meetings. So, so that's one of my little things, because that's less resistance then for me, because I don't have to go get changed into my running clothes. Yeah. It's already there. That kind of thing.
Again, it's just that driving factor of, well, why are you doing it? There is no gun to your head. Well, I'm doing it because it makes me feel better, and I will sleep better, and I will be much more in control of, staying on top of everything I need to get done. And it's time effective to actually exercise and be more productive afterwards as well.
Do you find, or over the years, have you found that you're quite goal focused as well? So like when you were training for the marathon, so you would have had some kind of program that you were following. Yeah. So do you sometimes find that is another thing that gets you out the door?
Do you mean in terms of crossing over to other areas of life, or just running?
Just having goals, like it was particularly for exercise in this circumstance, but having that goal that's there, and then knowing that you need to do these steps before you get there. So, for example, marathon plan.
Yeah, I think so. And then I've had years with, say when the kids were at different ages where I wasn't very goal oriented, and I was actually just quite content staying fit, or just being active, for good health and for the mental side of things, and some time out. And then in the last few years, again, I've become more goal oriented again. And it's funny because my body won't match my goals or where I want to be, but I nonetheless, and actually again, COVID was that, because no one was going anywhere or doing anything. So just within our little group to go, well, let's go do that event and make a weekend away of it or whatever. Again, put some goals back in. I actually realized that I enjoy that process of having a goal to work towards, and something in process. And I mean, a lot of the time with clients, when people come and inquire about joining a group or doing PT, that's the thing that's pushed them out the door is the fact that they're going, I need to go, and I need a process and someone to be accountable to, and a reason to actually go and do it, which makes sense, isn't it?
Totally.
We all need a reason to do something,
Find your why. Someone said that to me.
Find your why. Yeah, exactly. And they said motivation builds on motivation. The more you do something, the more you want to hold on to it, or to get better at it, or to, that's one of my quotes I come back to time and time again.
I love it. How long do you think you'll run for?
I'm hoping I can run for a long time, but I think I will need a knee replacements at some point, and it's probably a matter of how much discomfort at times I can put up with, or I'm hoping I see people out and I think, oh wow, I just want to be like that, and out there whatever age.
Like them when I grow up.
Yeah, and again, fear of missing out. I don't have any of my friends out there or people I like out there doing stuff that I'm missing out on doing it with them. So I'd like to think that I'll always be able to go out and go for a run, whether it gets slower and slower and naturally, that's fine. Yeah, I'd like to think that's something that'll always be a part of my life. Yeah.
Well, yesterday I interviewed a 75-year-old bloke.
Yeah.
He's still running. And a few months ago, I interviewed Betty, and Betty lives in Brisbane, and she's 78.
Yes.
She's had 2 hip replacements. Wow. I think she said she's had some knee stuff done too. She didn't start running till she was 40, but she's still doing very well, if not beating people in her age group. So
yeah, and that's the thing, it's that whole thing, isn't it? It doesn't have to be taken seriously, just regularly. That old campaign that came out by the Australian government years and years ago, and if you can find the joy in it for whatever that joy is for you, then why wouldn't you just, or if that becomes an option that is no longer viable, find another option, find something else that gives you a buzz or involves good people or good things.
Absolutely.
There's so many ways to be active now in such, without having to it always be the thing in your head you'd like it to be. I mean, life doesn't always work out, doesn't it? You sometimes got to change the direction you go with it.
Absolutely. So, Megs, is there something about running that you think we haven't covered yet? I'll ask you the last question in a minute, but do you think we haven't covered yet that we should have covered that would encourage more people to start running or to get back to running if they've had a layoff for a while?
I think Launceston as a place, when I remember when, we were in that group that would meet, and there was a small group doing marathons, and really you did not see a lot of people out running at that point. And the ones and we had a phase with Fit and Kicking where we had massive running groups, like massive groups training for Bernie 10 and other things, because people felt like they needed they weren't a runner. So I'd join a group and someone would tell me how to run and where to run, and that's all fine. But now in Launceston, people feel safe. There's loads of groups to join. There's loads more events on to go and train for. And so I love that in Launceston there's all these friendship groups and so many options to pick up a group to go and join, with everyone there just to do the best they can and not worried about who's the fastest or how far you can run. And I think that's, a fantastic part of what's emerged in Launceston. That's become the norm, really.
I'm wondering if that's the same kind of everywhere. Like if park run was probably what I was going to get to.
Parkrun's been a big
park
part
runs kind of burst open this kind of accessibility for many people to running.
Definitely. And look at all the amazing people in Launceston who've just started up free running groups and say we want anyone and everyone to come and join us. Look at what the buddies have created. So, take your hat off to all those people who've started as people who started in groups with people like us, and then have gone out and said, come and join us, let's go for a run. And we don't care whether you run for, 10 minutes or 30 minutes or, that's just wonderful to create safe spaces and place where people feel like they didn't. I don't think people now think, oh, I have to be a runner. I think they now go, oh, I can become a runner too. It's a different way around it.
That's why we changed the Launceston Running Club tagline to "We Run for Fun," because it was always considered to be, it's because only fast people run. I'm like, no.
No, not at all. No, I think that's fantastic about Launceston. Like, you can't go out anywhere now without seeing lots and lots of people running, and it's it's fantastic. And I think so we just forget here how many places there are to go running that are so close to the CBD, as said, and that's got to be a big part of it too. So someone get off the road and get onto the trails and be on their own and not see lots of people they can, or they can be going, oh, well, better run on Ilford Road so that I keep my shoulders back and I stay looking, because a lot of people are going to see me,
And I watch all those driveways.
Exactly.
All right, next, a tip or tips for beginner runners. What do you think to get people started and so that they'll be consistent and keep going? Because I think a lot of people start running and then they stop because they decide they're not runners, which is just not true. Everyone can be a runner.
Yeah, I don't think they stop. Well, is that the reason they stop? Because they think
What?
they're not a runner?
Gets
I'm
too
not sure
hard.
of that. I think people stop because they haven't, for example, they haven't found the right group for them. You know, like, they haven't joined a group that's been really encouraging and sort of, you know, help them to get from A to B and to see improvements. My tips are probably the same as you've heard 1,000 times. So I would always say, have a friend to meet or a group to meet.
Excellent.
It's so much easier to get out the door. Yeah, accountability, commitment, but also company and distraction and encouragement. And so definitely, you know, have someone to meet. And I always say, put a social element in there. Yeah, we keep going back to the coffee. Have someone that you meet for a run and then have a coffee with, because that's just a simple joy in life, to just do something nice and, you know, and put a reward in for it. And I would say, things like park run, fantastic. Turn up. No one cares whether you take 20 minutes or 40 minutes. Start with the jog, add more runs in as you get fitter. And that would be my next tip. Start slow. Start with jog, add a bit more running in, go back to a walk, jog, walk, jog, walk, jog, walk. I think jog walking is the best advice you can give anyone when they're first starting out. Don't even worry if you only do 2 kilometers. Doesn't matter. Do it on time. Just say, I'm going to go out and jog, walk alternately for 20 minutes. Build my time, build the amount of time I would build running, and keep it simple. You know, don't overthink it.
Especially the keeping it simple is very important, because it
is. And the only other thing I'd say, you know, from a trainer's point of view, is that you're trying to help people understand that it's probably always going to be hard, especially at first, that it's just trying to get past that point where it's really, really tough and you feel like you're really out of breath and you're not getting into a rhythm. It's about sticking with it, and that's any exercise, until you get past that initial phase where then there'll be a little bit more flow. And then you start feeling it gets a little bit easier and you get used to being in discomfort a bit more. So you've got to push past that phase a little bit and get into a routine of going. And then my other phrase I use a lot in fitness is consistency is the key. So you go for a run once every 3 weeks, it's probably never going to get easier. It's never going to get past that phase of feeling like it's not flow. So you got to, consistency is the key.
So how regularly, just out of interest, would you be like, would you go 3 times a week? What would you say? Running? Like for a new person.
For a new person to run. Look, I always think if you're starting out, I'd just aim for a couple of times a week. 2 times is enough to kind of get a little bit of a rhythm going. Like once a week is probably just not quite enough, is it, to get
for your lungs to get used? Because I think at least when you haven't run for a while because you've been injured or something or traveling, it's your lungs, I think, that seems to be the thing. And
you're less fatigued really quickly. I'd say 2, maybe 3 times a week when you're first starting out, and then and even then, for some people, they don't necessarily need to ever run more than that. They might say, well, I want to cross train. I'm going to swim other days. It's low impact. And again, I enjoy it and it's good for me. I'm going to run 3 times a week or 2 times a week. And I'm going to go to the gym and cross train. I'm going to do some resistance work, or on the weekends, I want to go bushwalking with my kids or do different activities. Everyone's got to find the thing that floats their boat and works for them and fits in with their schedule and their commitments too. You know, people got to be realistic about
they do.
It all fits too.
It is a lifestyle change, though, that I think some people are looking for, and it's a bit like going on a diet, I guess. That's probably what I'm trying to say, is as in it shouldn't be a diet. It should be it's a lifestyle. You want to move to a lifestyle that has more movement in it and more exercise or activity.
Definitely. Definitely. And then I think people forget too that, like anything, you reset, you refocus depending on what's going on in life. You've just had a baby, or you've had an injury, or you've had a family tragedy, or your work situation changes. Reset, refocus. You know, you don't have to feel like it's a failed. It's just get back on the horse and get out there and have another go. I do remember one really funny thing that happened that I want to share. That
please do.
I remember one day we did this, long training run. It was 30, 35 Ks, and we were a group of us were training for a marathon, and I remember sitting down the grass after this long run and saying to a few of you ladies, now don't shit me, tell me, is this marathon training harder or easier than childbirth? And the response from a couple of the ladies in the group has always stayed with me. I'm like, well, marathon training is good preparation for childbirth. I've never forgotten it. I can still actually remember where we were and where we were sitting.
It's very clear. And
Very
what would
clear.
you say now? Do you agree? Well, it was good preparation for childbirth.
I would say all of them end with good things. You know, you go for a long run, you get the satisfaction of finishing it, and you go through childbirth and you have this beautiful baby at the end of it. So
and then you have the marathon after that, which is like the rest of it.
Yeah, I would say, you know, you got to have joy along with some discomfort in life to get the best out of, best out of life.
You know, philosophically and as well as actually mentally, the science around how we deal with discomfort and pain actually says we need to be more comfortable with discomfort and pain, for all sorts of reasons, including how do you even know if something's awesome and great if you don't have something to compare it with? If you don't have something that's really hard, how do you know when it's really good, for example?
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, that's that thing around mental health for kids, isn't it? It's one of the things that's emerged. We don't allow kids to try and fail at things or to be out of their comfort zone. So they never really, you know, and I always say to our kids, you know, some of the hardest things I've done in life have been the most rewarding. They were the things that I've most grown from or learned from, all the things that have been the most satisfying. And if I hadn't, and I don't know where that comes from, whether it's mum or dad, but I've always been willing to try things and go, oh, well, I don't know if I've bitten off more than I can chew here, and had things that have frightened me no end to do, but they have always been the things that I've gone, I am so glad I did that, because even if I didn't reach, where I was hoping to with it, this is what I got out of it. So I think running is very much like that.
There's so many sayings like that. What is it? If you shoot for the stars, you'll still hit the moon. There's all those kind of
stars. You might miss it, but shoot for the. No, what is that? There is a great
like
one.
That, but it's like back up. Anyway,
you'll land among the stars. Even if you miss it, you'll land among the stars. Yeah, shoot for the moon.
It's like, I have a big problem with the fact that we don't allow our children to fail. In fact, I think it should be celebrated when they do fail, almost more than when they succeed, for the reason for what it teaches us. And a lot of, if you look at history and when we've had the biggest steps and advancements, it's when people have failed millions and millions of times before the it's like nothing, there's no win straight out of the gate as a rule. It's very, very rare. Almost everything starts with a failure or many.
Also teaching them that you don't actually have to be good at something to do it. And I think running's like that. You don't have to be the best runner out there. You actually just can go out there and do it for the sake of enjoying it. It doesn't have to have you had these discussions in our household about things, and sometimes, you find your kids, as all people, have strengths and weaknesses. And we've had conversations around, you can actually just do that for the fun of it, and not because you'll necessarily get any accolades out of it or because you're going to be good at it. Just do it if you've made friends out of it, or it's given you confidence, or it makes you feel good, or it's a new avenue to learn a new skill. And I think running is really good like that. It teaches you that, I don't have to necessarily be good at this. I can do it because it has other benefits for me, and you hope that the benefits, some people start with extrinsic sort of reasons for exercising. It's because their doctors told them they need to lose weight or they need to be healthy. And you can hope with those people, they get past that point, it becomes intrinsic to do it. Yeah. But I definitely think there's a whole range of things around exercise with kids we could teach and do better, But I'll tell you, there's a whole lot of parents out there who are fantastic with their kids and get out there and do awesome things with their kids. Look at the Duffys and how they've promoted, kids with disabilities and getting out there amongst it. So there's a whole range of people out there that we can focus on instead and go, wow, that's the way to go about it.
Lots of examples. Yeah. Amazing where we are in another 15 years from now. Who knows?
Yeah, it'll be interesting, won't it?
Yeah, it's exciting because I think, as you said before, we touched on with parkrun, running seems to have exploded, and people taking on who never would have thought that I even actually had some people here on the podcast who've only been running for sort of a handful of years, and it's like, oh, just, and they're really quite enamored by it. They're kind of, I wanted to say addicted, but they're kind of like, they thought they just love running and they just want to do everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
wasn't one of the recent Australian Olympians who did the marathon? Wasn't she someone who only took up running really late in her life? Diver or I think I heard she's someone, only took it up like in her 30s or something. And who would know that she had this amazing ability? And could pick it. I think she's the same one who would. I don't know if it's the same lady who would then train in the kitchen on a treadmill with all the steam and the whatever to try because she had kids. And there was a few stories around like that about people adapting to the conditions they had to deal with.
It's amazing what we do. Anyway,
it's amazing what people do.
It is. Oh, Megs, it's been awesome to talk to you, and I knew it would, and I knew that you'd be full of amazing inspiration and ideas and tips and all of the things.
I don't know that. I don't think I'm any different to anyone else out there in Lonnie. I think, or anywhere, I think if you find something you like or you feel like you've been blessed by participating in it, then you feel lucky in life. So there's loads of, I don't think I'm any different to anyone else out there who's been enjoying running for a long time and know the benefits of it.
But it's still inspiring to hear you talk about it.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Very kind. I'm actually more inspired by the people around me than anything I've ever done myself. I love seeing stories and hearing stories and seeing people and what they do. And I think human nature is fantastic to study, isn't it?
Pretty exciting. All right. I hope that we have encouraged some people to get out there and run if you haven't already run, or if you are a runner, that maybe you'll just put your shoes on and head out the door now.
Yeah.
And go for a run.
Don't think of it as running. If you break it down, if you've got to go, well, I'm going to go for a walk and a jog and I'm going to do a few dips at the park. Don't think of it as a run. Sometimes you've got to take that analogy out of it too. I'm going for a run. That's overwhelming sometimes.
You'll be proud of us today. We decided that we have never ever done this before, but we saw a couple of blokes for a few weeks in a row and we talked to them. Not that we haven't done that. We have, of course, talked to them. They were doing
that playground equipment, weren't they?
They were doing exercises on the playground. Anyway, so my friends and I that were running with, we said, when we stop, like we would normally stop and regroup, let's do a couple of push-ups. Oh my gosh, we've never done that before. Like, because we just go for a run and then have a coffee. But anyway, we stopped and did 10 push-ups off our knees. But, if we do that every week for a while, we might
do good technique. Yeah, do technique and do 10 on your knees and do 10 crappy ones on your toes. And it's all about trying things, isn't it? Yeah. Who cares? All upper body strength.
We might keep that up. We'll see. It's a bit of
you have to add 10 dips and 10 tricep dips in the next.
Can you stop now? Stop.
Getting excited.
It's getting exciting. Anyway, it has been an absolute pleasure, Megs, to talk to you. And I knew it would. Stay on because I'll say goodbye to you as well off the recording. But I just wanted to say a massive thank you for you sharing all your wisdom and your time, because our time is very precious and I do appreciate it. Thanks.
I was flattered to be asked. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. I'd love to talk to you about your running journey. So send me a message on Facebook or on the website and let's do it. For a bunch of resources on mindful running that will help you get and stay mentally and physically fit, head over to the website fitmindfitbody.co and I'll see you there. Plus, I'll be back here in your podcast player a few times a week. Hit subscribe now so that you don't miss an episode. And before you go, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a review. It'll help more people to find the podcast and get inspired to start running. I'll see you soon. Bye.